Good morning, friends, and welcome to the Legend Fiction live stream. I'm your host, Dominic, founder of the Legend Fiction community, and it is good to be with you on another Thursday morning. Hope that you've got a cup of coffee or something, hang out with us. Let's chat for a couple of hours. We've got a fun morning, I think. We've got an interesting topic. We're going to talk about imposter syndrome, and then we've got an interesting little marketing update that we'll walk around, like local news or something for authors, and how authors can maybe start tapping into that a little bit more. Um, we've got a couple of short stories I want to read aloud and share with you. And then we've got two guests showing up in the next hour. So we're going to have a busy 2 hours being authors together. First, if you have never met us before, hi, Dominic here, founder of Legend Fiction. This channel, this community that we're building, it's for helping indie fiction authors fall in love with writing again and write their dream novel. If you're an indie author, probably like me, you don't have a lot of budget, you probably don't have a lot of time, and you've got this dream, this love, this passion project you've been wanting to write forever, and you don't know how, and you're struggling to stay motivated to make it happen. And then if you're finally on the other side and you're done, you don't then know, well, what happens next? How do I actually market it? How do I get it in front of people? How do I sell it? And so those are all the questions that we're all now, we're here trying to solve. And part of my thing is part of my story is that I've been writing, novels since I was 13 years old, and I'm about 38, and I don't plan on quitting. But more importantly, I'm somebody who I spent about like a 25-year kind of side quest in marketing and branding, starting with the family business and then just moving on till today. I now work full time in marketing and branding strategy and design and that sort of thing. And the cool thing is I learned, oh, storytelling actually applies to all of this really well. So here's what I'd like to do is share with you everything that I'm testing, everything that I'm learning, and I try to share all of the stuff that I have kind of proved to myself works, or at least works enough to where I can like bet on it and experiment with it and do more with it. That's kind of why I'm interested in sharing with you a news update in a little bit about Google's new geofencing and what that might do for local authors, especially if you're trying to grow as an author and do more as an author. So if you've got anything, any kind of questions, go ahead and say hi in the chat. And we're still kind of slow and quiet this morning. So I'm going to go, let me see, what do I say in the chat? Say hi and drop your questions here. Typing doesn't work. Questions here. We've also, gosh, we've got a lot going on. We're about almost ready. I shared a sneak peek last week with you of the new Legend Haven website. And so that's about to go live, and I'm about to start sharing that news. So you are one of the first people to actually hear about this. It's a convention that we host online. We do it every year. We've done it since 2022 now. And now we're about to do it twice this year because why not? And it's an absolutely awesomely fun weekend, and people absolutely love their time. And it's for indie fiction authors. Um, so you can grab a ticket or you can just hang out live for free on the live stream with me because I'll be going live a ton on that weekend of May 2nd and 3rd. I wanted it to be May 4th. May the 4th be with you, right? I wanted it to be that day, but turns out the weekend was actually the 2nd and 3rd. So, well, may the 4th be with you afterwards. For today, we're going to talk about talent isn't the bottleneck. We're talking about imposter syndrome. If you've got questions, what do you think about imposter syndrome? Right? Is that something you struggle with? Here's the cool thing. We'll start with this. Okay. Imposter syndrome. I find this very, very helpful to think about. You actually have to be talented to have imposter syndrome, right? If you don't have any sense of your own excellence, I don't think you have imposter syndrome. Um, you just have people who are like delusionally feeling of capability, delusions of grandeur, right? They're just out there doing stuff. It's like the kid in the, the kid with the bicycle who's wants to go over the ramp, and that ramp isn't secure, and he's like, watch this, no hands, right? Delusionally self-confident, no imposter syndrome there. Versus, I don't know, what's the name of that guy who gets on skateboards? Tony Hawk, right? Even he still gets, a little bit of the shakes, right? Before doing something incredible, or public speakers, right before they go out on stage. Um, Me singing in a musical in college, like, you still get the shakes before going out and doing something. Why? Well, it's because you recognize I'm about to step out and do something epic here or hard, and I might not make it. I might not be good enough. That's the imposter syndrome. And then you either have to make a choice whether you lean into that or whether you can find a magical way to like jump over it. And you know what one of the answers is? Let's quote Indiana Jones. I love Indiana Jones. You know what? I should probably not say that as much because I haven't seen it ever since I was a little kid. So it's been 20 years. Almost 20 years. My gosh, time has flown. But the penitent man shall pass, right? And the penitent man kneels before God, right? If you're up against something that feels awful and horrible and massive, first thing you probably don't want to do, and we'll get into more of the imposter syndrome stuff, but I'm on a roll. Let me go with it for a second. You don't juice yourself up with, I got this, I can do this. Sometimes it's like, what is the very next thing I can do? One little step in the face of this feeling impossibility. And that's the humble point of view. What is humility, right? Humility is what? Humus, the ground. Instead of like, my goodness, this destination is absolutely massive and there's no way I can reach that. Well, yeah, you're right. You can't. You're not yet the person who is at that point to get all the way there, but you are the person who is right here and you can take the next right step. What is the next right step? Got this mental image in my mind of myself in the wings, about to head out into the stage, and it's a musical, and I've got a number coming up, and it's like feeling scary to step out and do that. If you're an author, we're in this all the time. We've got a novel we want to write. We just procrastinate. We put it off. Like, oh, it's never going to be as good, maybe, as what I dream of in my mind. I'm actually kind of happy with it, just staying up there in my mind, not actually doing with it because I can happily sort of dream about it. Um, you got to hack. You find little hacks, little ways to get around the fact that there's a little voice inside you, just trying to protect you. It's trying to protect you from doing dumb stuff that might kill you. Goes all the way back to being a caveman or something. Um, you do something dumb, you do something risky. You could fall off a cliff. You could not neatly land on the back of the saber-toothed tiger, whatever it is. The dangerous, watch this, guys, hold my, what's beer in caveman days? Probably still beer, actually. Hold my cave beer. Anytime you do that sort of stuff, you probably don't get a second chance. And so there's a voice inside you. Um, anthroposophists, right? Or deep theological, philosophical types might go, well, you see, that's called the guardian of the threshold. That's that thing inside you that's trying to protect you from overexposing yourself, over risking your connection to life, your connection to your community. You get up and you say that thing that you really think. Is it really worth it? You prepared to put your life on the line for that? For what you actually think? Maybe you are. And if you are, good for you. And then maybe you need to find out what happens next. And you don't know. And that's scary. But I think there's a little bit of a difference between being afraid of the consequences and then imposter syndrome. Because imposter syndrome, it's this idea that you're not, well, how would you define it? Like if you're in the chat, how would you define imposter syndrome? Go ahead and try to explain it. Is it a feeling of, I don't think I'm good enough? I'm just not that good. Nobody's going to respect it. Nobody's going to appreciate it. I can't actually land this plane. I can't deliver on this promise. I don't have what it takes, right? And I'm listening to this list of things that runs through our minds, and I'm like, man, who hurt you, bro? Right? So sounds like people you loved and trusted maybe weren't there for you. And there's a difference between a parent who's like a helicopter parent, like protecting you from being able to do anything. That could probably set you up for some pretty awful stuff later in life because you have a sense of learned helplessness, and that's still different from like imposter syndrome. Because learned helplessness is like, I am completely incapable of doing this thing. I can't even invent my way through this thing. I can't outthink it. I can't get creative about solving my own problems because I learned how to not respond to anything. Somebody else has to save me forever. That's learned helplessness. That's not that doesn't get you anywhere. So we're not talking about that. And we're not talking about fear of the future. We're talking about when you feel like you don't belong here. And that's different. That can be something to protect you before you're ready. It's not always bad. Again, we're just talking general in life here. We're trying to get it back to being an author. Sometimes, right, if you're, well, we'll talk solutions in a minute, right? Let's keep trying to get into the problem a little bit. This feeling that we get, we look at the fact that we've got something we love doing, and then we sit it and we do nothing. And a lot of it, if you never put your attention on something, if you never literally sit down and pay attention to something, it always feels massive and impossible. And then you put like the laser focus of your attention on something, and you try to ask yourself, what would be the very next step I might do? Just one step. Let me look straight down at the ground. Penitent, penitent. Look straight down at the ground. What is the next step I can take that feels safe? And then after that, I'm just going to do one more. I'm not pole vaulting across this whole thing. Um, it's like if you're facing a canyon and you look at this, like, I don't have what it takes to jump this canyon, right? And you might be absolutely right. It might not be imposter syndrome to make a truth statement like that. You can't jump across a canyon. You can't pole vault across the canyon. And you watch the other guys right and left, like, hold my beer, right? They don't make it across because maybe a little imposter syndrome would have actually been more helpful. But that's not totally imposter syndrome. That might be a humble recognition that you're inadequate to do the massively ludicrous thing that you have set before you. So maybe you don't do that thing. Maybe you look straight down and go, okay, here's what I can do. I can climb down this wall. I can then cross that river, and I'll just cross that river when I come to it. Then that's the thing. Cross it when it comes to it. So if you've got a massive novel, you're an author, you want to write, you want to do all these cool and epic things, and you're just never showing up for yourself. You're never doing it at all. Right. This kind of goes back to what we were talking a little bit last week about why indie fiction authors never finish their novels. Totally sat on my novel for a year. I couldn't finish it for a year. I got imposter syndrome because I suddenly realized, oh, I'm at the climax. I've actually reached to the end of my novel. I don't know how to write that. I don't know how to tie up all the points and make it super emotionally satisfying and deliver on everything. And you know what? I probably didn't. Thinking over it now, my mind keeps going over it now, and it's been like almost a year. Has it been a year? At least 8 months since I actually finished writing that last chapter, and I just put the book aside again. You know, there's a good piece of advice, which is repetition is more valuable. Repetition is better than strength. And this is like when you go to work out, it is so much better to pick up a chair 10 times a day than to go pick up a whatever 100-pound weight one time a week, because that slow repetition over time builds muscle memory, builds endurance, builds a predictability, builds a sense of confidence that, you know what, I can show up and do this at, like at all. But what you're also doing is you're gently, slowly tweaking your physiognomy, your idea of yourself, right? If you pick up a chair like 10 times, right? Something I try to do most days. I've been skipping a bunch. I need to get back to it. You just literally pick up a chair and you do squats, right? It's a little bit of resistance, a little bit of tension. You slowly start transitioning your idea of yourself, and then your body starts responding according to this new idea of yourself. Oh, I have to be the kind of person, the kind of body that is capable of doing this kind of repeated action over a long period of time. That's why you get these hilarious reels sometimes of people doing, what are they called? Like arm wrestling? And you get this, he's not scrawny, right? But he's definitely not jacked like this Mr. Universe guy on the other side. You get this sort of, nicely, leanly muscled guy. And then he just goes and he blows through these massive guys with, the super vasculature on their muscles. And these other guys are somehow able to win. And these massive men, professional, cosmetic bodybuilders, are like a bit staggered. Why? Well, because it's more than literally just muscle repetition. There's also an idea of yourself. Um, there's your idea of yourself. There's all of the muscles working together in a sense of unity, as opposed to you feeling like you have a bunch of targeted muscle groups all over that are built up individually. You're not a single unified thing, right? You're instead a bunch of discrete little habits, individual little parts that have been roided out, maybe. Um, so this sense of being like more holistic, it's a big deal to me. How do you live a healthy mind, healthy life, right? And that's kind of what we're about with our community is heal the storyteller. How do you do that? Well, it's not literally just buy a nicer keyboard or butt in seat with a nice timer or an app that just wipes you everything you've written if you don't keep going every single 30 seconds or something. It's like, no, that's not it. That's creating literally more pressure. And for some people, if you're a word count warrior, that works awesomely. Not everybody does, though. Sometimes healing the storyteller is simply asking the storyteller, who are you? What do you want out of life? How do you normally get it? What makes you happy? Not like what makes you satisfied, because more often than not, like if you're like me, you get tired or bored and you're grabbing your phone and a bag of chips and you're eating candy. And of course, you're on the couch and you're relaxing and like, oh, let me wind down at the end of the day. I'm exhausted and stressed. Let me pull up a movie and let's watch somebody else be super exhausted and stressed for about 2 hours. Okay, that can be kind of fun. And it is. And so we do it. Are you really genuinely healing yourself? Are you actually getting any sort of rest at all so that you can show up for yourself? I just watched a video this morning of a guy who tested literally staring, sitting at a wall, put himself in timeout basically. Started at 10 minutes a day and got up to about 20 minutes a day, tried 30, realized it was too much, got back down to about 20 or 25. And he noticed that he outperformed his best week simply by staring at a wall. Now, he also did a couple of other little things. So he put on a timer, he sat in front of a chair and he stared at a wall. And I kid you not, I sat and stared at that wall this morning for a timer about 10 minutes right after waking up, because I pulled up YouTube right after waking up and I watched that episode or that movie. So I decided, okay, I need to calm myself down. Otherwise, I'm going to be grabbing for tech all day long. And every time you do that, you siphon off. It's like cutting a nick, cutting open a little artery, and you lose energy. It just sprays all over the place, and you lose it. And you don't have it from when you need it. Then you get to the end of the day, and you've got nothing left. You feel absolutely wiped, because you've got tons of screens open and your attention's everywhere. And if you're like me, you have ADD, it's like even worse. Like you're technically with ADD primed to be able to look at everything. Comes at massive cognitive cost, massive, comes at regular burnout and headaches and stuff. It's probably why I like a ton of butter. Facts. My brain needs to like regrow constantly. Uh, I'm losing where I was going. Um, Resetting, calming down, showing up for yourself. If you're always go, go, go and busy, 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 you don't have any energy for yourself, for the things that you actually want to do. So maybe it's a good idea to try that. So I've got a running experiment for myself, which is no social media, right? I started it like over a month ago, and it's actually been really cool. I got rid of Facebook and I got rid of Instagram and X, and decided the only ones I'm going to keep are YouTube, because my feed is full of movies, or not movies, videos for watching and learning stuff. Kindle, because I want to read more books. Substack, because I post on there all the time and I get lots of interesting things. So I went from like an attention feed to an interest based feed, like stuff that actually interests me, not what they want me to be interested in mostly. And now I'm trying to take the next step of like, okay, I need to get back to daily walks. I usually try to walk for like, half an hour, maybe 45 minutes if I can get it. And the first 15 minutes, the first lap of the neighborhood is like nothing. Just look at the world, just hear the birds, just listen to the wind. That's it. To reset. And I'm usually able to come back and get into a flow state really quickly after that. Plus, sunlight, fresh air. If you're stuck in a cubbyhole like this for most of your day, that's also not good, for your more holistic sense of being a human being. So let's keep working our way back to what we're talking about, imposter syndrome, and then how to start healing it. So if you're trying to write a novel and you've been putting it off, you've been trying to write a story, you've been trying to write anything, sometimes it's because the feeling of the task is so big, because you literally haven't broken it down and thought about what is the next step just for today that I can do. I love this line, which is, if you don't have confidence, get evidence. So maybe even after writing like a whole novel and like well, three actually novels, um, if you're an indie fiction author out there and you're like, I just wish I could write a novel like at all. And I'm saying, like, I've written three that I'm kind of proud of and a ton of short stories, and I still feel imposter syndrome about starting the very next project. So it doesn't go away. So, okay, now what? So you're telling me it doesn't get better? It's like, well, it's like anything. It never goes away. Life stays hard. So we got to get harder. We have to build up our response. And Okay, all of this is very nice. This is all sounds very theoretical. What do you actually do, bro? Well, systems. You know what I find is a hilarious thing is the answer to almost everything is systems. And that literally means, what do you do? When this happens, what is your response? What is the plan? Okay. A business, any sort of business that you go and you hire anybody for or buy something from, it's like a black box of systems. Something goes in, goes through a clear process, and then something else comes out. And it's a predictable thing and it runs every time. And if it stops working or being as effective, you change the system. Companies or brands or businesses, like, you probably get this if you're working. Um, Maybe you're taking time off of work to actually hang out here and sort of revive yourself, which, if that's the case, let me know in the comments. I'm hoping it's kind of reviving or interesting, because work can be mind numbing sometimes. But when stuff stops working at work, you usually go, it's because, well, there's supposed to be a process in how stuff gets done. Otherwise, nobody knows what it is. And if you're hyper creative, like probably you or me, if you don't have any systems in your life, every single day is like a kind of happy chaos where you get to, like, I get to invent what I do every single day. It's literally exhausting. And the human sort of body, let's take your sort of soul and spirit aside from it for a second. Let's just take yourself as the body animal, body mind being that you are. It thrives on predictability. Thrives on habits. You go to sleep at regular times. We eat at regular times. I can count on sunlight. I can count on food. I can count on these things so that the body can be a tool or a usable thing to ride, to use, to partner with, to accomplish the things you want to accomplish. And then there are times where you can flex and stress this body. It is absolutely phenomenal what the human body can do. In that you put it in high stress environments, it builds up the things and the capacities, muscle density, response, neural architecture, to be able to make normal your ability to respond to high stress situations like being a Navy SEAL or something. The wiring and the musculature in a body like that might kind of look the same as your average person, but they've trained themselves to respond constantly when situations happen. Somebody knocks on your front door. You literally run a little mental system through your mind, which is hide behind the couch, shut all the curtains, and don't talk, and everybody panic. No, that's a stupid system. It might be, well, I'm going to walk down the hallway, I'm going to unlock my front door, and I'm going to say, hello, how can I help you? You don't even think about it anymore. That's the system. You wake up in the morning, first thing you do, you go see your loved one, see your wife, your family, or something. You got a little system. Good morning, how are you? Did you have any dreams? Did you sleep well? Little bit of questions like, create a fresh baseline beginning of the day. How are you? How are we connected today, right? Um, you're driving to work. You've got a system. You get in the car, you turn it on, right? You roll up your windows, you brush the stuff off the seat, you get into the road, you roll through the stop sign, you check for cops, right? Everything is a system. When you have no systems, that's the feeling of zombie apocalypse movies, where every minute is terrifying because you have no idea what comes next. If your home life feels like that, if your work life feels like that, I'm really sorry for you. And that's awful. And maybe that's where you need to start. That could be one thing that's creating a massive feeling of imposter syndrome. And you technically might be right. Taking on, like, writing a novel is you trying to become another human being, or blue alien, but technically another person. You trying to be another person going through some adventure. Could be some quiet, kind of cozy interior adventure. Could be a massive, earth-shattering, three-part sci-fi saga. Doesn't matter. You're literally taking on the living of another life. And that can feel absolutely exhausting if you don't feel like you've got your feet under you on this one. And so maybe some of that imposter syndrome is trying to protect you from doing something that you don't feel like you have space or time or energy to do. Um, so you then literally have to ask yourself, and I'm going to assume if you're here and if you're on this channel and if you're messing around with this whole thing, you know that writing a dream novel, it is your dream. It's something you want to do. It's a priority. It matters. You want to, but you don't know how to get there, and it feels massive and impossible. So what is the literal next step? Well, the answer to imposter syndrome is creating systems. It's same thing with motivation. Motivation will never show up when you need it. You will have it one day and then you go, "Oh my gosh, it looks like if I put cinnamon in my coffee or lemon in my tea, I get an absolute boost of something incredible and I can get amazing things done. And then the next day, nothing. And the day after that, nothing. Well, why? Well, it's because motivation is a random something that you cannot control. It's like a wave that just kind of washes through you and it doesn't plan to come back. Now, from maybe a spiritual standpoint, you could go, that was like a burst of energy to get you to feel a certain way, to feel good, to like, for a moment, overcome all of your objections and all your imposter syndrome. And then something kind of picks you up and then carries you over the canyon and airdrops you on the other side. All of a sudden, you can do stuff and you can write. I mean, this is the literal feeling I had. I was sitting on the couch, like right there a couple of weeks back, and I was reading a book about dreams, and I thought, wait, I could write a novel, epic thriller, something about dreams, and I know what the first 3 scenes are like. That could be really fun. And then I went back to reading and then suddenly realized, wait, I could stop everything right now and I could go write those scenes. And I did. And I stopped and I went and I wrote it down and I wrote through those scenes, a couple of thousand words, and it felt so good. And I thought, man, maybe I could do more of this tomorrow. And then the other part of me got in, it's like, well, I don't know where the rest of the story goes. And that's that little chattering voice trying to keep you safe. You don't know what you're getting into, and life is really busy right now, and you didn't plan for this novel. Well, maybe you're right. So what I did do was the next best thing. So again, I'm trying to find if it's right. What is the next best step? Next best step is it's a good idea. It's fun. Maybe I'll save it for later. Maybe now is not the right moment. And I should be focusing on this other thing. So what else can I do about this? 'Cause I don't want to lose this. All right, plot it out, architect it, identify some fun characters, find some pictures of some art, maybe start pinning stuff on Pinterest. Like do a little bit of just sort of groundbreaking or organizing so that maybe in 6 months, maybe in 3 months, next week, when you come back, you can get right into it a little more easily because you've laid a little more groundwork and you had a little more fun with it. Maybe right now is not the moment to do it. And that's okay too. Um, I think a lot of us, again, the issue with something like imposter syndrome is when you start putting attention on it, it's like laser focus. You start putting your laser pointer on, like, what am I actually struggling with? All of these individual issues, you suddenly start realizing, oh, they're actually a bunch of individual things. Well, that's easier because you can then maybe pick one today and tackle one. Like, is your energy and your attention all over the place? Okay, maybe I need a digital detox. Maybe I need to sit and stare at a wall, run a 10-minute timer, stare at a wall and do nothing, or close my eyes and meditate, or take a 15-minute walk and not listen to a single podcast or piece of music or nothing. And I just need to like bring down my sort of mental inflammation, bring down the temperature so that I have a minute to breathe and think and get into the flow. Maybe that's one thing that needs to be done. Probably do. I strongly recommend it. It's what I'm doing right now. Um, it works. Of course, it always works. We're over dopamine. And so reset your dopamine levels. That's one thing. Two, you might have a ton going on. So you if you're an over empathetic kind of person, or a kind or a compassionate or a nice kind of person, you might be carrying a bunch of mental or cognitive load for a ton of other people. And that might not be a good thing to be doing, like at all. Now, that might be your job, maybe that might be a part of your identity, but you got to be careful about. I saw this thing last week. I wish I could remember what it was, but it was like you can default into a kind of survivor state where you either are feeling like a victim or you are chronically trying to be a savior or you are trying to be like a persecutor, person who causes the problems. And we can default into any of these three. And I realize, oh, I've got a savior complex constantly because I've been or felt like a victim for a long time. And I saw that little thing and I thought, oh, maybe being a whole savior thing and trying to save the world, save everybody, which is okay, this sounds very nice to do, but maybe I literally do not need to be doing that because I haven't even saved myself. I have not created enough stability, sort of personal nourishment to be able to be here for me at all before I can reach out and help somebody else. Like I haven't even put on my own mask and I'm running out of oxygen. And then I get mad when anybody asks me to help them with anything. It's those moments where I realize I get really defensive or really frustrated because somebody else asks me for something because I feel burnt out. That's usually, for me, an indication, oh, my boundaries slipped. I have not maintained my boundaries. I have not kept a way of saying no. Okay, this goes back to what we were saying earlier. What are some systems for that? Let's talk about that for a second. might be a really good idea. So here's what I'm doing. Okay. For example, I try this: no emails before midday. I do not open my email inbox. I've got like four, maybe four email inboxes. I've got like three personal ones, and I've got my work one. And as soon as I open it, I know all of my energy goes. I've now said it so many times, it's maybe a self-fulfilling prophecy. It might not be totally true, but unless it's like an emergency, I don't open my email inbox. Okay, that's one. So I want to preserve my attention in the morning hours, which is when I have the most energy. Again, this goes back to your chronotype. Find out when you best sleep and when you then best have, best energy during the day. And lean into that period of the day and do your best work. Schedule it for that time. So that's one. Two, people Slack me, text me, or ask questions. I will not respond immediately. In fact, never respond immediately unless it's somebody incredibly important or it's a high, response situation. Um, Maybe don't respond immediately. Now, of course, if it's at work and if it's your boss and you're not supposed to be paying attention to anything else, then that's a bit of a different situation. Um, but again, it's about for you literally telegraphing to yourself, am I safe right now? Am I in control of my own time right now at all? I'll tell you one of the hardest things I had to struggle with was standing up to my boss like a year and a half ago. And people would call me. And I realized, you know what? My phone, it wasn't on the contract for being hired. I was. And you can argue about, like, yeah, the phone comes with it, stupid. Well, instant access to me just because you have a question, um, that's something I needed to negotiate. And so I decided, and we'll get it's made stuff tough for a minute. And I decided I'm not going to pick up my phone as soon as somebody calls. That's what answering machines are for. Nothing needs to be that much of an emergency. Now, unfortunately, I had a boss at the time where everything was an emergency. He did not sit and process anything. He outsourced that to everybody else, showed up on calls and made everybody process everything, instead of him doing the work himself before he showed up. And so he'd call me every time he had an idea and like, okay, we need to work through this thing and talk through this. What do you think about whatever? And of course, that would always happen in the middle of my flow state or I'm trying to focus on something. And so I would usually go, okay, everybody, I don't answer my phone. You want time with me? Schedule it or ask, and I'll let you know if I'm free later. Um, you can do little things with your scheduling calendar, which is what I've done. For example, nobody can schedule a meeting within 2 days of today. So the earliest time somebody can schedule a meeting with me is 3 days from now. I'm not available till then, right? Creates a little bit of a buffer so that I can look at my calendar and know, okay, today I'm not going to be surprised or ambushed by anything. I can breathe. I can count on my day not being a big deal or not changing. Um, you might also set it up that you can only allow 3 or 4 meetings on a given day. So you put buffers in between meetings. Don't let things be back to back so you have no time to think in between them. Um, Cap the max number. So again, you're not going to get burnt out. I have done days where there've been like 6, 7, 8 back to back, meetings, or sometimes they were a mix of interviews and job offers and demos and stuff. And it's like, and you're still trying to keep your job going and all of this. And it's like exhausting. That's not necessarily a good thing. So maybe try to control your schedule. What can you control? What is one thing, if you feel like you can't control anything, find something that you can control to create a bit of a system around that. Maybe talk to your team about if you're a creative person. If you're not a creative person, these are totally different issues for you. But if you are a creative person, you're wired differently and you've been hired because you are that creative person or you are valuable to your team because of that creative person. Hey, friends, looks like Warmel. I don't know how to say your name. Excuse me. I'll call you Warmel. Good to see you. Hi. Creative people do not function exactly the same way as everybody else does. You try to put a creative person in the same, function and rut as everybody else, and they will burn out. Creative people need decompression time, need creative refilling time. Um, and I remember my boss telling me, when I call, you pick up your phone. You will pick up. So I didn't pick up every other time. And he still didn't like that. Anyway, we're talking about systems. Can you create little systems? You've got systems that run most of your day. Um, is your kitchen neat? Is your home neat? When you look at your writing environment, does it inspire you? Is it kind of organized? Maybe take a day. and just handle that so that future you looks back and goes, man, thanks me in the past. I can now enjoy or rest my attention because this stuff is clean and sort of organized, right? Um, I side quested again, didn't I? I got lost. What was I talking about? We're talking about when you put your attention on the problem of imposter syndrome, it breaks down into little things. And then you can start thinking about tackling those things. Maybe it is an impossible situation. Maybe right now is not the right time to do it. Maybe you don't have any systems and you don't know how to take the literal next step. A system is just a stack of steps that you can then share with somebody else, or you can share with yourself, or you can just practice until you repeat it and um, turn it into a habit. What is a habit? It's a system. When this happens in my life, I respond like this. Okay, we've had fun talking about imposter syndrome, so let's start trying to wrap this thing up, right? Let's try to land this plane, shall we? Because I feel like I keep trying to land it and I just keep looping over. It's a complex thing. And this is where I don't like it when somebody goes, "You got imposter syndrome? Just do this." I'm like, well, hold on. There's a lot of reasons why people struggle with this. Digital novelist. Hey, I think I recognize you. Systems aren't everything for finishing a novel. Yes, you're absolutely right. Hello to, oh, Vormal. I'm going to guess it sounds like a V. I'm glad that you're enjoying the channel since the Obsidian tutorial video. I know that's been such a funny video for finding all kinds of people. I recorded it for like 2 friends, and now there's like 150,000 people have sort of started it or watched it. Hello from Germany. Hi, I'm in Virginia in the United States. Okay, so um, imposter syndrome can make up a lot of things. The thing that is actually imposter syndrome is like one sort of chunk in a bunch of other chunks that are probably clotting your brain and stopping you from being able to focus. Um, Actual imposter syndrome is the literal feeling that you can't do this, that you're not worthy, you're not ready, nobody will care. It is literally how I feel about starting my own YouTube channel to talk about a whole bunch of other topics that I want to talk about. And I literally go round and round in my mind. I really want to do this. I would love to do this, or this novel that I want to write. I would like to do this. There's a big difference again. I'm gonna keep trying to. I want to encourage you to like, let's take the heat down, right? Let's take the pressure down in your mind. Um, it could be imposter syndrome. It could be life is awful right now. It could be a ton is going on. Could just not be the right time. There could be a lot of things going on. Let's say we put all those aside. Let's say that it's literally imposter syndrome and you're feeling like I can't do this because I'm not worthy, I'm not ready. Well, okay. Um, what might you tell yourself? Like if say a loved one came up to you and they said, I've got this really wonderful novel that I want to write. And it's going to be so cool. And here are these characters, and I love them. And I don't know where the ending goes yet, but here's the opening scene. It sounds really cool, right? And you're listening to your best friend, and they start talking like this. What would you tell them? I'm pretty sure if you're like most nice sort of human beings, you would go, "That sounds great. You should do it. Maybe don't ask me to read it until it's done." Or they'd be like, "I'd love to read it when it's ready." Okay. Like, that's a nice little piece of encouragement. Okay. It's not very helpful for an actual author. Okay. You're sort of an author. You know how authors work. And you're looking at your best friend or your loved one, and they're like, "I really want to do this thing." And you're like, okay, um, looks like this really matters to you. What are some things that maybe I can help with so that you can sort of focus on this? Now, where might that conversation go? The author, your loved one, your best friend might go, I don't know, I don't think I can do this. And you might look at them and you might go, you know what? You've written or you've entered a short story contest almost every year of your life. You've got the chops. You can do this. Or you've never written anything in your life and you're trying to go full on into a novel, right? And you're looking at your friend. Well, you know what's also true? You have watched a ton of movies, maybe, or you've read a ton of books, or you are fascinated on this topic and you never stop talking about, I don't know, how people didn't have maps in the Middle Ages. And so people should stop carrying them around in fantasy novels. And you're a total nerd about this other stuff, or whatever. Usually, if you're writing a novel or something, it's coming out of a bunch of shared other interests. So you might look at that person and go, you're really good at all this other stuff. You're just now having to learn a new skill to sort of translate and turn some of that into a new way of talking so that you can share it with somebody else. You're really good at this. You taught yourself to do all of that. Nobody else taught you. You probably showed up because you loved it. Now you're starting to love this new thing. It's okay to be a little bit unnerved or scared or something. I think you're going to be really good at this too, right? Well, what have you just done? You've taken your friend and you reminded them you're actually really good at a bunch of stuff. You're actually got a lot of capacity to do hard things. Maybe you can now learn to do this too. And so then again, it's like, okay, let's go all the way back to the beginning of this conversation. What is the next right step? All right, penitent man, you look straight down. What is the next step that you can take? And you might ask your friend, all right, writing the whole thing feels absolutely overwhelming. And you're right, it might be totally overwhelming. So don't do that. Don't write everything. Um, Maybe describe your main character. That's it. Let it sit for a day. Let it sit for a week, maybe. What are you doing? You're doing one thing, one task. You're training yourself to think of, I've got an idea, but I don't have a system on how to get there. And a system or a series of habits or a series of steps or little actions that are really simple. Well, what are some little things you could do? Okay, so maybe now you're not just talking to your best friend, your loved one. Maybe you're talking to you. Maybe you are the kind of abandoned child stuck in like a little dark room in the back of your brain, and you want to come out and play in the sun, but you're afraid to come outside because something's going to happen to you. It's like, well, maybe nothing will. And there's now grown up you that's able to come and go, hey, it's okay. I've got us. Come on, I'll hold your hand. I, as the adult, now know how to survive life a little bit, maybe, hopefully. I know how to get us to work. I know how to get us back from work. I know how to keep us fed. I know how to, we don't need a parent anymore. We've got this. I've got this. Right. I can make life a little bit stable. I can start pushing back on people. And if work is absolute crap, then maybe what I could start doing is putting up little mental boundaries in myself. I'm just not going to care anymore. And I might have to like work hard at this for a week or something. I'm not going to care anymore. They're not paying me to care for everybody at my job. They're paying me to show up and do a task. They're paying me to bring my systems and my habits and my creativity to work to do something cool that they find valuable, but they're not paying me to emotionally carry and be there for everybody. So maybe, if you feel like tentacles connecting you or spider threads or lifelines connecting you to all these people, maybe you need to literally cut them off, chop them off, slowly kind of detach them. Stop checking in on these people who don't care about you, never reciprocate. All of this stuff is draining when it's coming out of you and there's nothing coming back in. It's totally different when the lady in the lunchroom is like really nice and genuinely asks you questions. And that, those friendships, those leave you feeling good because there's reciprocity, right? It's going back and forth. But when there's nothing and you are having to handle everybody's problems and try to solve everybody's emotional crises and stuff, is there anything you can do to start saving your own sanity? What does that look like? Right? And of course, inner child you, creative you, who was an absolute bomb at creating and having fun as a kid, might look at you as an adult and go, I want to, but I don't totally trust you yet because this keeps happening. So I don't think I can do this. So maybe your imposter syndrome is actually battling with some of these other things. Okay, not everything can be solved at once. But if you never slow down to look at anything, it'll all feel impossible. But you start paying attention to it, start breaking it down. Oh, it starts becoming a whole lot more possible. So what happens when you do that? Man, we're not going to get any time to read a little short story. We try to wrap this thing up. Man, the plane just took another loop around again. But I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Um, you're looking at yourself and you're talking to yourself. It's like looking at yourself in the mirror and you lock eyes with your left eye and you go, okay, I love me. I'm here. Have you ever tried that? Have you ever done that? You get this weird instant disassociation that starts happening. It's like you're not used to this kind of language or somebody talking to you like this. We want this from somebody else. Have you ever done this to yourself, for yourself? You literally look in a mirror. I saw a guy the other day was talking about doing it. He said he was doing it since the pandemic and it changed his life, regrounded him as opposed to being like a Hindu god with like multiple arms and multiple heads, um, you calm down, you come back home, you re-embody, you stop disassociating, you calm down and you become you. Again, we're trying to take down the inflammation in your brain, in your soul. I'm here. We often don't feel like that. I literally start feeling like I'm woozy when I do that because I'm not used to that level of trying to put calm, loving attention on myself without being weird and narcissistic about it. It's like, no, I want to be humble and practical and I want to be real and I got to show up for me, put on my own mask before I can show up for somebody else. Okay. So, what if you're looking at yourself and you go, I've got us? I can start trying to organize my life to calm stuff down. I can start building little good habits throughout the day. Can't do everything at once. I might just try with one thing. Okay, I'm going to do 3 meals a day. Right. If you're like me, I love Google Tasks. I can literally go, well, okay, Google, and then what? And then make a task, remind me to do this thing at this time, and then I can just let it go. Gosh, I love that tool. Okay, you can also write it down, but I like the fact you get a notification that shows up too. Um, Schedule meals like every single day. Schedule your sleep. Do things on purpose, right? You won't get everything done all at once, but you start doing these things. Okay, you can get rid of some of the other problems, then you can get down to the imposter syndrome part. And the imposter syndrome goes, I don't know that I can do the next thing. How do I do? And it's like, okay, maybe I don't do the whole thing. What is the one thing? Because you've got the talent, you've got the skill, because look at the rest of your life. I'm assuming you're not a complete failure, otherwise you're probably not hired. You're probably, uh, you know, successful at something. People appreciate you for something. What is that? Because you probably had to put some time and attention into that. It means you can do this, or you can do something. And maybe you can then start taking whatever energy and skill you applied to that, and you can start putting that to other things. So when it comes to writing a novel or a story or something, maybe the system is so simple, it's annoying, which is open a Word document, start a 10-minute timer, and you go, I'm going to write rubbish. And it's just going to be fun. Are you even having any fun at all with your fiction? Because if you're trying to teach yourself to fight the page, I'm not convinced that's a good thing. It's like, think of that little child in the dark room, and you're standing at the door in the sunlight trying to yell at them for their own good to get outside. And they're just terrified of the sunlight. Well, that's not a good thing. What if you were to lead them by the hand? What if you were to kindly, lovingly lead them by the hand and welcome them out? That's a lot easier. I like to think that that is a more holistic, healthier way to go about your creativity. And so maybe what you do is you clear the way. We're going to clear the dirt out of the way of the front door. We're going to clear the brambles out of the way of the front door. Anything that's going to scare that creative, sensitive thing from being able to come out. We need to clear that out of the way. Okay. And then we're going to look, put some paving stones down. And so that might be open a Word document, find some cool music, create a nice environment that you can rest in, that you can like forget about everything else in, and then you can start to write. So wrapping it up, how we're trying to solve some of this sort of thing with the legend fiction community. And you don't have to obviously join us. We would love to have you with us if you'd like. Um, we try to create the systems and the habits in how the community runs so that it feels a little more fun. And so, because we start stuff, all you sort of have to do is decide to respond yes or no. So, for example, we try to encourage output and not just perfection. So, for example, we did a writing challenge, and you'll see it in the description right below this video. If you hit that link, legendfiction.com/gift, got a free ebook to share with you called Quildrake. And we put up a flash fiction challenge. And it was, you got 3 days to write 1,000 words, and that's it. And you're not going to know what the word is for the flash fiction challenge until day one, which means everybody together gets 3 days to work on this challenge. It was really fun. And we got 12 fun and awesome little stories out of that. And so you can just grab your own copy and download it and just send it to your Kindle, or you can read it online and just read them. And you know what everybody loved? I loved it. Took me about 15, 20 minutes, and I just threw out a little 1,000 word story that I didn't know I was going to write until I decided, okay, I can take 10 minutes. I can take 15 minutes and write under 1,000 words. And then I did. And it was a fun story. It's just silly and it was fun, right? So what do is we lower the expectations, make it simpler, create a deadline, and then do it with friends. That right there, we've now solved so many things. You're not alone. Other people are also trying to do it with you. They're also feeling a bit of imposter syndrome too. If you don't have the confidence, get evidence. What is your lack of confidence? I don't know that I can write. I don't think I can do this. Okay. Could you do like 1,000 words in half an hour, in 2 hours, or over 3 days? I don't know. Could you open a Word document and can you write a single paragraph, like stream of consciousness, or write about your day, or talk about a movie you just watched? Can you do that? I don't. Well, what did you think about the movie you just watched? Well, I thought it was actually kind of fun because of this. How about you write that down? Oh, maybe put that on your blog. Maybe just share a little bit about what you think. Did you read a book recently? Yeah. Okay. What did you like about it? Try writing that, right? What are we doing? Putting little bricks down. We're getting used to being able to show up. We're building that level of confidence so that you can then look back after a week and go, well, look at that. 7 short blog posts. They might be 300 words each. Who cares? It's not exactly for everybody else. You're trying to train yourself to show up. It's one reason why we're hosting a 30-day writing challenge, 30 days to 30K. Writing challenge, and it's going to be in May, right after our Legend Haven Con. Uh, Snake announcement. Legend Haven Con's May 2nd and 3rd. It's a weekend. And then right after that, we're going to go into a 30-day writing challenge. So you're welcome to join us. If you've been putting off something, you can, decide, okay, I got a deadline. I'm going to plan up until then. And then we're all going to join a whole bunch of authors together. We're all going to write together. Looking at our chat here, let's see. A friend from Germany says, I do know imposter syndrome too. I've always just planned my novel. But when it comes to writing, I'm stuck. Pay too much attention about the wording instead of accepting I can never be perfect. That's a lot of us feel that way. So what do you do? Again, this is kind of why um I have all of these problems myself. So what do? I go and build a community to help other people solve these problems. And if I can try to help them solve it, I can start putting attention on how I am trying to solve it to share what I've done, which means I got to actually do the work. Or also I can learn from other people how they are doing it, how they are winning. So like you just said, your last comment is awesome. Just accept one version on the paper is okay. Here's my recommendation. If you can do it, it's what I do. It can be hard, but it can help you get over that imposter syndrome. Totally cold coffee. I should just straight up accept it's cold brew and it's not. We're going to go for good enough. Okay. I think this is some of the most helpful advice that I've ever practiced myself. There are some authors who are absolutely brilliant wordsmiths and they agonize over every single word and they write a really tight first draft. It's different. I've been messing around in this since I was 13 and then paying real hard attention for about 10 years on this, and maybe you're still at the beginning of that journey. Um, so I recognize I'm kind of further along than a lot of us, but in my early days, it was just about putting words on the page, and it was bad. And then as soon as it was done, I think here's the trick. As soon as it's done, read through it again, like the next day, and then put it aside for 2 weeks, and then work on something else and always keep working on something else. I actually don't know how to be the kind of author who's only got one project. That's all they think about. I don't I don't know how to do that. You might need to go find another book talker, somebody who's an actual influencer who's good at what they know and stuff. Um, I know how to have a ton of ideas, way more than I have time to write. I find that keeps me mentally flexible. There's always something else potentially to be thinking about, and I can get into a big project and I can hunker down hard and work on it, and then again, the thing is, when it's done, put it aside and plan to not look at it for 2 weeks. What I will do in my community, for example, is I'll write the story, read through it once, and then put it in the stories space, the stories group in the community. And that's where other readers can come and read it, share some feedback. And our cardinal rule in our community is only kind feedback, zero negative feedback. We do not savage each other. We're here to build each other up. And that's why you get authors doubling and tripling their writing output because they're starting to feel confident that it's going to be okay if they put it out there. Um, for me, uh, my writing, my stories routinely crumble and won't continue because I'm trying to shoehorn too much into one story, into one character. Whereas if I've got like 10 other ideas badly formed that could be fun, I don't know, I might be able to go, I'm stuffing my character too much and they're grinding to a halt, unable to move. I could actually take those pieces out and they could actually go in these other characters and these other stories. And then all of a sudden, this character can move again because there's less pressure to try to accomplish a ton of things. Um, having the sort of what is that little hatch in like an engine where you sort of open and steam can blow out? It's like an off steaming thing. Having other projects, any other projects, can actually allow you to not obsess over one thing, allow it to be what it is, and then keep on moving. Like if you're writing a longer novel and you got a chapter, well, you're struggling with this chapter. You're like, well, maybe I don't have to make this chapter absolutely perfect right now. Maybe it can be good enough and I can keep moving. Or I love this technique. It's something I practiced with the recent novel I wrote, which is um, just write a scene. Go and write a scene totally disconnected from everything else. Pick a random character in your story and go and just write that scene to experience them. Or think about a side character having their own adventure on something. Just write that 1,000 word short little something. Get in their head for a minute. Just it's like a palate cleanser, right? Change your mindset. Do something different. And then maybe you can come back and go, "Oh, I found a new way through," right? Um, but if you keep banging your head against the wall, there's a difference between, quitting while you're ahead, um, and then bashing your head against the wall, and then you don't have any brain matter left to help you do anything. It's like that picture, and it shows the 2 miners. One is still digging, 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 and one is, walking away, and, like, 2 inches later was the diamonds and stuff. Sometimes it's important not to quit. And if you can just put up with it a little bit longer, the thing is, I pretty much guarantee you're not going to find any super creative nerds and people like you and I down in the mines unless we've got no other choice in life. But um, that's just not where we are. And if we are, we're finding new and interesting creative ways to find those diamonds. Bashing your head as a creative person is not something that we have a gift to do. There are other people. You're like the Hulk, right? You're primed. You're built to bash your way through point me in the right direction. Let me bash a hole through this mountain. Uh, Most of us are like, I could fly over it. I could ride a deer over it. I could learn to apparate from one side straight to the other side. I could fold time and space. You know, we create all kinds of other ideas and ways to sort of to solve our problems. And that's the genius of being a creative person. Tap into that creativity and use that. And that's how you start to solve imposter syndrome, right? In a couple of minutes here, we've got the first of our 2 guests who are coming on. I am very interested to know if anything in this was really helpful. Kind of rambled and we talked around this like it was a couple of friends at a cafe for the last hour. Um, I think we covered a bunch of important stuff, and I'd really like to know if it was helpful or not, or what I totally missed. Did I land this plane? Did I give you anything that was actually helpful? And I recognize it was a bunch, um, because it was a free flowing kind of conversation. If it was, please let me know. If you're watching this afterwards, say hi in the comments. What are some follow up questions where it's like, huh, that was interesting. You forgot to talk about that. Or now that he's brought this up, all of this other stuff is now a question. If any of that comes to your mind, say hi. Let me know in the comments. And I would love to bring that up and chat about that later. If you're hanging around for our guests, we are going to be chatting with, her name is Rose Shefler, and we're going to be talking about symbols in literature, dragons. I think it's going to be pretty fun. And then after that, we've got John Hendrix, and he's coming on to talk about his latest novel. I think it was No Lewis and Tolkien. All righty, I'm going to take a brief little break, grab a cup of water, and come right back. Give me a second. All right, friends, and we are back. Ooh, another comment while I was away. Somebody said, this is probably our friend from Germany, I think, isn't it? Yeah. Hello, German friend. I always imagined my writing must be tight and loaded up with purpose, like in every part of the book, but maybe that's too monotone. Need that mental flexibility that is mentioned as a general thought. Yeah, remember to have a draft or to be able to edit anything, you need something down. So even if it's bad, just write, just get it out. I think it's don't worry about making it perfect. Can it be good? Can it be good enough? and then you can come back and make it better later. Okay, let's welcome our first guest.
Jeez.
Ooh, hello.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
That was the best opening ever for someone landing on the stream.
I'm so sorry. I'm so
Not a
sorry.
problem. We are live. It is our live stream. So good morning and welcome. It's nice to have you with us, Rose. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I love your background. Hold on, I'm going to change the setup here so I can see a little more.
Sure.
Gosh, what a beautiful background you've got.
This is my husband's office. It's not my office at all.
I'm totally jealous. I got a white wall.
I know. Yeah. But no, he curated it because he does a lot of online teaching, which is why everything here is really nice and fancy.
Nice.
So he's got like Dante in the back, I think, over there. Yeah, there he is. And yeah.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Welcome to Legend Fiction Show live stream. We haven't yet met. I'm Dominic, founder of the community, and my goodness, I've been talking about imposter syndrome for the last hour with our chat. So that's always a fun one.
That is fun.
Yeah, and I think I've got you to talk about. I know dragons was a thing. I literally just said it out loud to the chat. Hold on, what was it?
Yes.
It was symbols in literature. Are you?
Yes.
You're part of the Faith That Builds Worlds event. Is that right?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'm super excited.
Awesome. That's how we got connected. Okay, so I do want to hear about that. I want to hear about what you're going to be talking about. I'd love to hear more about you. And so I've got you for about a half hour before somebody else is jumping on.
Cool.
And what I'm going to do is I'll clip out this conversation afterwards and share it on the YouTube channel so others can enjoy it too. I would love to chat about yourself, learn about your origin story. Do you write? Are you a novelist, storyteller yourself?
Yes, I am. My mom would tell you that I started telling stories as soon as I was able to talk. And the first official story that I think I wrote down that I saw as like, this is a book. I think I was in 8th or 9th grade. I started in 7th and 8th, and I don't know exactly when I finished, but it was like 300 pages when I was done, and it was terrible. It was so bad. But I've been writing my entire life. I didn't see myself as a writer until, honestly, maybe college.
Okay.
So, but yeah, so I have 2 books that I have. One published traditionally, so that's Past Watchful Dragons. That's this one right here. And then I have one that, that's the dragon. That's why I want to talk about it, because I think dragons are great. And then I have another adult novel that I wrote and self-published just because I wanted to, and that's called Where North Meets South. And that is completely different. It's contemporary, and
Okay, well, I want to talk. I love dragons. We've talked way too much about dragons on this channel, and so I want to know what you think.
No such thing.
No, I mean, yes, you're absolutely okay. So our community, this channel is specifically for indie fiction authors.
Yes.
Mostly it's because it's literally what I am, and
Yes.
we have some fun content and good stuff. Hopefully it's good anyway for trad publishers and trad authors. But I'm really interested myself in this incredible future that's sort of unfolding before us of how indie fiction authors can write their dream novel and then just get it out there and sell more books and find their readers. And the tech is just showing up in incredible new ways, and it's a whole new world. And so I would love to ask you about. Flow for the next half hour with you. Let's talk about the novel that you just mentioned. You said it was a young adult or an adult novel?
It's an adult novel.
Adult novel. Okay. Let's talk about that. I want to understand what that is and how are you doing with it and how you self-published it. Then let's talk about the dragons one, because why not? And hear a little bit more about your story.
Okay.
And then see what time we have left at the end of that. I might have to have you back on. Okay. Tell us about this novel.
Okay. So Where North Meets South was a novel that I started writing for fun. Oh my goodness, probably 10 years ago. And it takes, so I love Victorian fiction, Jane Austen, all of that age. So obviously they're not the same. So Regency and then Victorian fiction. So this is a novel that was serialized, published with Charles Dickens. So it's called North and South. And that was done through 1850 to about 1851. It was published in his magazine. It's by Elizabeth Gaskell, who is a rock star. A lot of people don't know about her, and I hope some of your audience do. But it was about the industrialization of England, and it kind of looked at the cultural differences between the north of England, which was very industrialized, and then the south of England. It is a mini series. That's how
Okay.
I found it.
I
It's a
loved that.
wonderful, it's a
Mhm.
great mini series. Not everyone knows about the mini series, but I usually start with the book.
Okay.
Um,
Main actor,
so
what's his name? Total heartthrob.
Richard Armitage.
I love that guy. Oh, I
I
mean, there's
love
also
him.
Thorin
He's
too, isn't he?
so good. Yeah. So, fun story. Just a little like side quest. I'm watching this miniseries, right? It's just me. I'm sitting there with my thoughts. I'm enjoying this, and I'm like staring at the main character the whole time. I'm like, I know him. How do I know him? I know his voice, and I'm like, I'm barely paying attention to the story because I'm like, you. I know you. Where do I know you? And it was episode 2. There's 4 episodes. Like I got to the end of episode 2 and I was like, oh, it's Thorin. That's who he is. It took me forever to figure it out because I'd seen The Hobbit, but he wears all these prosthetics. And so
Right.
I was just like staring him down. I'm like, I'm going to get you, Richard. Who are you? And I wasn't going to Google it. I was like, I will figure this out. I'm going to
Yeah.
figure it out.
That's funny. I literally did that this morning.
Yeah.
Where I suddenly realized, oh my gosh, I know the main actor from this series I love called Hell on Wheels. And it's about
Oh.
the laying of the Transcontinental Railroad. It's one of the best
Ooh.
cowboy sort of series I've ever seen, where it's this
Nice.
traveling city as they keep, the city that sort of travels along the end of the railroad. They're trying to sort of thread the needle of,
Okay.
of the two railroads together. And I suddenly realized, wait, I know the eyes of that main character. He's
Yes.
Captain Pike, isn't he? And he's also from Strange New Worlds. And
Okay.
isn't he also like the superhero guy, the Inhuman guy with the speaking voice thing? And I had to go look it up, and oh my gosh, it is
Yes.
him. Only because the
Yes.
eyes are so unique across all of them, and I never
Yes.
realized. Anyway, okay, so
Yeah.
your novel, 10 years ago, you
So
started writing it, inspired by
just
like a
for
North and
fun,
South.
I wanted
Yeah.
to do it just for fun. I wanted to do a modernization of North and South because I was really captured by the cultural differences
Hmm.
between the North and the South. And I thought that's really interesting. And industrialization, like against because there's a lot of like the capitalist versus the little guy. Like I was really interested in that conversation. So I thought, how would you have that same conversation now? And this was back in probably like 2007, 8, 9 when I started it. So
Okay.
before a lot of like political. And so I was like, I just want to see where this goes. So I did. I had some beta readers. They really loved it. And
So
what
I'm
I
trying to
did,
understand, like what, like the tension was the industrialization of Britain and people coming out of the villages and into the
yeah,
towns and
yeah,
navigating the tension with their,
yeah.
not overlords, but the business
Yeah.
owners and whatever. So then you transplanted that into modern day.
So what I did is I put it into America because I thought we have a very clear North and South divide, right?
Mm.
We always have. And then what I did is I made one of the main characters British, a British expat. I turned the female character into a British expat because I
Okay.
thought, well, that's also a cultural like divide between America and England because we are kind of an offshoot of England. And I thought that would be really interesting. So I
Charlotte Hale,
made,
right?
yeah, Margaret Hale.
Margaret Hale, excuse me.
So I make Margaret Hale, she's British and she's my northern character. So I actually ended up flipping the northern character
Hmm.
because a lot about the north of England in 1850 that I really admired is they're very independent, they're very self-sufficient. They have this idea of like leave me alone, which is very much the South of America. So I'm from Kentucky, and I know a lot of people that are from the deep South. So it's very much
Yeah.
a get off my lawn and leave me alone and pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And I thought that fit really well with that kind of northern independence from the original. So I thought, okay, John Thornton, he's a southern guy from America.
Hmm.
And I had a lot of fun with that. So I thought, okay, well, what's the antithesis of that? I thought a city girl from the north, but from England. And so I had her transplanted up to like New York, and then she moves down. And so I made like an in-between city in my head, and I called it Milton, Connecticut. So he moves up, she moves down, and they meet in the middle. And I just had so much fun with it. And I didn't even really see myself publishing it, but I had a great time with it. I had a lot of people that were reading it on the side. They love North and South. They're like, this is really good. Like, you should do something
Awesome.
with this. And long story short, it went through a period where it kind of like disappeared from my active work. And then I came back to it after 2020. I came back to it after I became Catholic. So I had a massive like spiritual upheaval in my own life.
Wow, I
And
can
I
imagine.
sat down And I was like, I need a comfortable place to revisit. I need to be working on this. And so I did. I got it into really good shape. And I was chatting with my husband. He said, you could probably publish this. You could find someone to publish this. And I looked at him. I said, probably, but I want to do it myself because I don't want anyone to mess with it. Because it had already gone through so much. I had been through so much. I was like, I want this to be mine 100%. It was not about the money either. I still haven't broken even, but I was like, I want to do this myself. And so I learned a lot. I know why publishing houses exist now. It's really hard. I mean, it's so much easier than it was, but there's so many details that you have to look at. And I was like, this was a lot of work. I'm really glad that I had the experience, and I probably will do it again because I bought like a bunch of ISBNs and, they're mine now and I need to use them. So, because I bought a bundle to save on money. But so I will probably do the self-publishing again, but man, it was like trial and error. And I even designed my own cover, which I don't necessarily suggest everyone do, but like I wanted to do everything myself. My daughter helped me. We had so much fun. The whole project was fun and hard, and I'm really proud of it.
Amazing. As an indie fiction author, why would you do it again? What is it about the process where you would do it again?
Because I like being in charge of how it looks at the end of the day.
That's my answer. There you go. Yep.
I understand you need a lot of feedback editorial wise. And I understand that there are certain weak spots in your writing that sometimes you can't see. So having gone through a traditional publisher, my editors were really fantastic individuals. They were great. However, at the end of the day, I didn't have any say over what the book was called. I didn't have any say over what font they used. And yes, I care about font. I like the font they chose, but I'm just saying, like, I have no control over that. I have no say over which illustrator they chose, but they did ask me what I thought, and I deeply appreciated that. A publisher does not have to do that. Once they buy your book, your input is basically legally done. Now, a good editor and a good company will come back to you and say, hey, we want to work through these line edits. We want to do this with you. But essentially, it's theirs. And they can change it legally any way they want because they hold the copyright too. That's another thing I learned about. It's like they hold the copyright. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, that makes sense because they purchased it from me. It was a transaction. Now, I do get a kickback. A little bit of a kickback for every book sold. But again, that goes through the publisher, but they take on all of the financial risk as well and all of the marketing, which is like, I'm not very good with marketing. I'm bad at it. So
I was about to ask, so what are you doing these days? Are you writing something else, or how are you messing around with marketing? Like you said, you haven't yet broken even.
Not yet.
What's your thing as, in being an author, what does that mean for you? How are you making it work? Is it something you would like to do full time, or is it always going to be a passion project?
When I became Catholic, I learned this really funny word called vocation, and I'd never heard it before. And I loved it because it separated career from calling. And
nice.
I think I was born to tell stories. If I don't write, I'm a miserable person. And my husband said, go to your office and don't come out until you do something because I don't want to be around you right now. Not because he doesn't like me, but he loves me. But I get antsy. It's like a kid that hasn't gone outside to play in a while.
It's like you get like constipated or congested with creativity.
I get creatively congested. It's terrible. And so I'm always working on something, not always something I want to publish, but I'm always working on new ideas. So in writing North and South, what I did was I discovered a deep love for comedy and also realistic romance. So romance is a section of like the literature world that a lot of people don't want to touch because it's very tropey and it can get extremely inappropriate very fast. And a lot of people do it poor and it sells really well. So there's a lot of gunk out there, but I had a ton of fun being in there. And so it was like the book kind of oscillated from very serious, but also hilarious. And there were all these romantic elements. And I really enjoy romance because it's a key part of being human. I'm like, why are we letting subpar like glots of romantic like fiction clog up the
Yes.
airways. Somebody's got to take it on. So I'm currently working on a rom-com, so a romantic comedy
Oh,
that kind
cool.
of pokes fun at a certain romantic trope that I find really interesting. And I gave it to my betas and they pointed out a giant glaring problem right in the middle of it.
Oh,
And I'm like, oh no, I need to go back and like fix that from the very beginning to get it out of the middle. Cause I'm a linear writer. I do have to start at the beginning and fix everything else. I can't just jump into the middle, fix it, and then go back. I have to do it in order. Not everyone does that, but that's what I have to do.
amazing.
So
Wow.
yeah.
We don't have enough time for the questions
I
I want to
know.
ask. So I'm
I'm
gonna have to
so
follow up with
sorry.
you. No, it's not your fault. I scheduled us for a half hour. So I'll send you an email with some other stuff. But I'd
Sure.
really like to. I don't know anything about how to write romance. It's also just not my cup of tea. But I know that there are like I love
Yeah.
your attitude. One, I don't want to wait for anybody else. I don't like somebody else telling me what to do. And we can't let the idiots drive the ship out here because it'll send
No.
us into weird places. I love that
Very
energy. Okay.
weird places.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about your dragon novel.
Sure.
Or not novel, or the book. Or wave the book around. I've seen the cover of that book, and it's
Whoop.
enchanted me every time I've seen it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is that a clear picture?
It's
So
good enough.
everyone
I'll put
starts.
links to all these in the description afterwards as
Yes.
well.
Everyone starts by telling me, they're like, oh my gosh, that cover. And I always tell them, I didn't draw it. Like, they're always like,
Right,
they're
right.
gushing about the artwork. And I'm like, I did not do that. Although, you know what they did let me do? This was so exciting. So my editor came to me and she said, hey, we'd love to put a map in the back of the book on the end papers. Would you please just really quick sketch us up a map so we can send to the illustrator? And I was like, I have map making software that my husband gave me for Christmas 5 years ago. I busted that out
That
and I
is
made
cool.
the coolest. I was so proud of it. I spent way too long on it.
Can you
And when
show us this map?
I could later. I can't do it right now. I can
Oh,
show you
okay.
the map that they drew from it in the
Oh,
back.
okay, there you go.
This is
Oh
their
my
map.
gosh, that's gorgeous.
And
Yeah.
it has a big mistake in the middle, and I'm not going to tell you what it is. But my husband
okay.
pointed it out after I sent it in. I said, thank you, babe, for telling me after it's gone to print. And he said, you're welcome. There's a river that's in the wrong place. Don't worry about it. But I can show you the map that I did. I had
Are you
so much fun.
Are you somebody who likes writing fantasy fiction, that sort of thing?
I do. So that's what
Okay,
I
so
started.
I've
I
got to
did
wave
start
around
with that.
ours. So in our
Yay!
community, we did our
Yay!
own anthology of
So
dragon stories. And I got a
exciting. I need to look that up.
dragon eye.
I love that dragon eye.
Yeah. So
It's
something
so
else I want to
great.
I'll hit you up afterwards. I want to talk about an upcoming
Of course.
contest that I'm actively
Oh,
thinking about.
yeah.
So
Okay.
let's talk about this book. What is this book that you
Sure.
created? It looks so fun.
So Past Watchful Dragons is it was a project that I also started around the same time as Where North Meets South, oddly enough. And what it was is at the time I was a Protestant. And basically, the only liturgical thing that Protestants have besides going to church is the Bible. And so I read the Bible all the time because we didn't really have a whole lot else. And I was reading my morning devotions, and I read the story of the Tower of Babel, and I put the Bible down and thought, that is so incredibly sad. I never noticed how sad it is. Because you have to understand, I'm a well-catechized young person. I was 20-ish years old at the time. So my parents, I have heard these Bible stories since before I can remember. They are in every corner of my life. So they're really, really familiar. And I thought, I missed how sad this story is because I know it way too well. Or I know it. Does that make sense?
Pull on that thread for a second. Like
Yes.
I was literally listening to Jordan Peterson talking about it yesterday
I love
on my
Jordan
walk around the
Peterson.
neighborhood.
I love
It's
him.
so much to talk. Okay, something else we got to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, why is the Tower of Babel? What is it that jumped out at you for being so incredibly sad?
Because what it showcased is what human beings can do together. The Tower of Babel was a huge accomplishment. It was a beautiful thing, but because it was done against the man setting himself up against the divine power, then God comes in and he breaks up community, which is, and I'd almost started crying because it's like all of humanity was unified, and together we can do incredible incredible things, beautiful things. But God had to come down and say, you can't. This is too much. Like, you're doing it wrong. And then it was just that break of community between brothers that I just thought was so incredibly sad. It's like now we are separated by language, the language barrier. And I know that the Tower of Babel has some like historical, it's like historical, but it also has fairy tale elements to it as well. It's got that kind of mythological storytelling. So how much of it is completely factual, like we don't really know, but just that idea of
It's kind of
man
beside the
was
point
once
anyway. Like,
together.
the point of the story is like what you're saying.
Right. Man was once together and now they're not. And that's sad. And I had never noticed before. It was always told to me about like, look at the pride of man, how terrible. It's like, well, yeah, that is terrible. But look what they did together. They built this incredible, incredible city together. And we've never been able to do something like that ever again. Like, we've gotten close, but the idea is like you look at the pyramids and you look at the Great Wall of China and what man can do when they're all on the same page, just it blew me away. And the idea of like, I could almost feel the sadness of God when he's like, we have to stop this now.
Yeah, yeah. It's like that line, I think it's in the movie of the Ten Commandments, right, with Charlton Heston, where he goes, we do not break the commandments, we break ourselves against the commandments.
Oh, that's such a good line.
I think
But
it's in the movie, but I've not
don't
gone back to
know.
rewatch it through.
It's
But
been
it's
a
such a
long
good
time
one.
since I saw the Ten Commandments with
Okay, so how do we
Charlton
go
Heston.
from Babel to dragons?
Okay, so what we go from Babel to dragons is I began to think there are probably so many stories in the Bible I don't understand. So many. And my husband, he's a philosopher. He always says learning starts when you realize you don't know anything. Like you actually learn stuff when you're like, I don't know anything. And so I began to go to the Bible and I thought, can I tell these stories in a different way so I can learn something new about them? And tell them more mythically with more symbolism, more like looking at themes, like what is this story actually about in one instance? And the Bible lends itself to fairy tale telling very, very well. Because, and this is part of what I'm going to talk about at the in Chicago in about a month, is just there's parts of the Bible that are very symbolic and they're very mythic in the language and the way that they're set up. And fairy tales allow the Bible to kind of breathe on an imaginative stage so that people can put themselves inside of that story and kind of just look around and what sticks out to you. And so I started pulling Bible stories that I enjoyed or that I was interested in and thought, how do I would retell this as a fairy tale? Now, so that was part of the impetus for the project. But the other part of the impetus for this project, what I think is really interesting and I don't always get to talk about, is I was in the middle of writing a fantasy novel at the time, and I wanted to create a set of mythical stories that existed inside of this novel. And that was the other part. I was like, who are these people? They have stories and they have constellations and they have songs and they have rhymes and they have all this stuff as part of who they are that they don't think about because they're just there. You don't think about Cinderella, but she's part of your cultural identity. You don't think a lot about Hansel and Gretel, but they're there too because they're stories that you grew up with. You don't think about, the rhymes that you were taught as a child, but they come from particular places, like peas porridge pot hot, peas porridge cold, peas porridge in the pot 9 days old. That's an actual meal that people ate like 400 years ago, and it lasted a long time, and that's a big deal because they didn't have fridges back then. It's like, okay, like you didn't know that, but that's like where that came from. That's so cool. And so I was trying to create some of that for the novel I was writing, which ended up in a drawer. I haven't touched it in a while. I might go back to it. I don't know. But that's the other part of where these came from. So I was like, who are these people? What are the stories, the mythical religious stories that they're telling themselves and their children over and over and over again? So so the two parts came together and created what I thought was like, at the time, I was like, I think this is really good. And I don't think anyone else has done this.
Wow. What's been the response to this book being out? What's been your favorite feedback?
My favorite feedback is always from the kids. It's always from the kids. So I did an interview with another guy, and he said, my son had a question for you. He told me I had to ask you. And I was like, oh, what is it? What is it? And literally the question from the kids is there a book 2? And I'm like, not yet. I don't know. I love people. They will pick out a favorite story. That's another feedback that I just love because there's 12 stories and they're all interconnected as they exist in the same world, but they don't necessarily depend on each other. So you could just pick up the book and start in the middle if you wanted to.
Mhm.
And I love finding out what people's favorite story is because I already know what Bible stories they came from, but I tried to write them in a way that it's kind of hard to tell until you get to the very end. And I love people will go in reading it blind. They know, and they'll be like, okay, which story is this? And they're like trying to figure it out and try. I love that too. But when I ask them, what's your favorite? I just feel like I learn something about them as a human being when they tell me what their favorite one is.
Yeah. And I know that you love all of them. Which is the one that stands out to you most?
One of my favorites is, well, there's two of them. I did two different stories on the life of Christ, and both of those, I really love both of them. One is called The Mountain Boy and the Ocean of Fire, and the other one is called The Story of Whiston and Kareen. But I love The Mountain Boy and the Ocean of Fire a lot.
Wow. I wish we had time for me to ask you, like, okay, do you want to tell that story?
I
So
know.
you're attending this conference. What is it? Faith
Yes.
That Builds Worlds. I
Yes.
love this title.
Yes.
As I mentioned I interviewed another guest who talked about what was it? Staying human in the age of AI, and he walked around
Oh,
this topic a little bit as well because our second online convention for our community, we called it Worlds Without End. That's what an author is. Worlds Without End. I
yes.
thought it was such an awesome thing.
That's a
Um,
great title. Was that your
last
idea?
well, yeah, because I thought it comes right out of the liturgy. Like, this is awesome,
Yes.
but it comes from that quote, an author is like worlds trapped in a person. I thought it was a cool
Yes.
quote. So in the last sort of couple of minutes that I've got you, tell us a
Sure.
little bit about this conference and why this title matters to you. And we didn't get to talk about symbolism at all. Well, we
Oh,
sort of did. We
that's
kind of
okay. I don't
touched
care
on
at
it.
all. I've had so much fun.
So yeah, tell us about why this conference matters to you and what you're presenting at it.
It really deeply matters to me to have, especially speculative fiction writers that care about the world building and that their faith is an integral part of what they're doing when they're writing. So the imagination is so incredibly important. And I think sometimes the way I was raised, I kind of separated what I did imaginatively from my spiritual life. And that was, I'm learning and learned that that's wrong. That's not actually what should be happening. Like all the imaginative work and thought and consideration and like taking the time to like build this world is extremely religious and kind of feel like spiritual experience. And I still quite don't understand all of it, but the people who are hosting the Jesuits, they are big on imagination and how that plays into the spiritual life. And so I was like, absolutely, sign me up. I'm there. I'll say whatever you want me to say. Not really. I was like, what do you want? And what they asked me to do, and I still haven't finished yet, but I'm thinking about it. They want me to walk the writers in the room that are going to be there through the entire process of like, how did you go from this story to what it came out on the other side? And so I'm actually going to go and dig. I have the handwritten originals of this manuscript because I
Oh,
start
wow.
by hand
That's
in
awesome.
a notebook.
Mhm.
And so not always, but I want to walk them through like, how did I go from the life of Jesus to the mountain boy and the ocean of fire? Because you don't know that it's Jesus until maybe the middle, maybe the
Okay.
end.
Mhm.
And they also wanted me to look at the fact that it's not a one-to-one analogy. Because if you ask, like, who's your Jesus character? I'm like, well, there's like 3 or 4 of them. There's no one Jesus character.
Mhm.
There's no Aslan. And while I think that one-to-one analogies can be really helpful, I
You can also
actually
really get
like
stuck.
people can get stuck. And I think that sometimes shoving your imagination into a single box
Mhm.
doesn't allow for the spirit to move in other ways. And that's why it's called Past Watchful Dragons. Because when you think about a story that's being religious, you
Mhm.
put it into a box immediately of your own experiences and it locks it up a little bit. And I have a lot of problems with that. Sometimes when I'm at mass, I'm like, I know that I'm locked up in my imagination because of like how I was raised. And
Mhm.
so busting out of that, I wanted God like to give the stage for the spirit and for God to like bust out of like what people think the Bible is and what it means and give it more depth and let it have
There
a
you go.
place where it can play with your imagination. And then maybe God takes a 2x4 and whacks you in the head with his love for you in a different way. And it gets you because your dragons are not watching.
Oh my
Because it
goodness.
slips by.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where, when we talked about the title, my editor is like, can we use that C.S. Lewis quote? And I'm like, please, let's do it. That would be great. Because that's kind of what I had in mind.
This is amazing. Rose, this was so much fun. I wish I could have you back
Yeah.
for a much longer time. I loved your use of the word vocation earlier.
Yes.
This is it's central to me. It's a big thing about what we're trying to figure out at Legend Fiction, the sense that
Fantastic.
being a storyteller can be a vocation. Not just a
Absolutely.
fun hobby. It can actually be a vocation that you have a lot of fun with because it's a thing that brings
Absolutely.
you to life, brings you alive. Where can folk find you online? And then we have to jump to our next guest. But Rose, where can people check you
Absolutely.
out online?
You can find me at rosejohnshefler.wordpress.com. I just have a Substack. I'm not WordPress, Substack. I'm so sorry. It's substack.com. And I just have, sometimes I don't write on there all the time. So you're not going to get weekly emails. Sorry, guys. But I post about my writing there. I post about other stuff. I post about what I'm reading. I have an Instagram, Rose John Shefler. I don't update it all that often. Like I said, I'm really bad with marketing, but I'm on there too. My books are on there, and yeah.
Good deal. Well, what I'll do is
Yes, absolutely.
I'll put the links in the description. Folk can find you
Sure.
after. Rose, thanks
Thank
so
you.
much for coming on. It was so fun to
Thank you
spend time
for
with you. I hope you
having
come
me.
back.
I would love to.
Awesome. God bless you. Have an awesome rest of your day. And I'll
You
be
as
bringing
well.
on our next guest here. Hello, John. How are you?
Hi, good to see you.
Hi, good to see you too. We're wrapping up our conversation with Rose and then hopping into the conversation with you. It's good to have you with us. Thanks for waiting. I know we're a couple of minutes out. Man, I'm so jealous of your background. What is it? There's a sword and a pennon and books and everything. That's awesome.
This is what you got to have this sort of thing if you want to make good art. I'm sorry, this is just one of the requirements. So
No kidding. That's awesome. Rose, when you're ready, can you still hear me, Rose? I think she might be frozen. Testing, testing. I wonder if there's a way where I can help her bounce from the call. There we go. Is that going to work? I'll just trim this out afterwards. We just had an awesome half-hour conversation. We started around 10, John, and we were chatting about imposter syndrome, and then we chatted with Rose all about her books and everything. And I wonder, I don't know. Okay, there we go. Now she's stepped away. All right, cool. Thanks for coming on. We've got about a half hour together, which I thought would be so cool to talk about. Awesome stuff. What you're working on, what your author journey is. You had in the sort of little calendar doohickey you had mentioned. Let me pull it up and have a quick look again. Come on, open up. And now it does not want to open up. There we go. Lewis and Tolkien. Are you also, because I'm in the middle of a live stream, I don't have my notes. You're one of the speakers, I think, at the Faith That Builds Worlds conference?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. I wish I could go to that. It sounds like such an absolutely incredible thing. So I'm stoked to have you with us. We love Lewis and Tolkien for sure on this channel.
That's good.
Oh my
It's a
gosh, you've got
requirement for me to
Nazgul
attend.
stuff above your.
I built a Witch King of Angmar costume for Halloween 2 years ago. So yeah, that's just in case if I ever need it. It's good to have.
Amazing. John, what do you do? What do you get up to? What's your latest project these days?
Yeah, so I do a lot of things that are different activities in illustration and writing. So graphic novels, picture books, comics, and then I also am chair of a graduate program here at WashU in St. Louis, which is about illustration and visual culture. So my next project, I'm working on a picture book right now, and then after that, I've got my next long form graphic novel is a retelling of the Salem witch trials.
Ooh, how much am I allowed to ask you about that?
Oh, as much as you want.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. That sounds fun. So why don't we start with that, and then let's go into a little bit of your story, your origin myth, and then we can sort of cap it off with a little bit about this conference and yeah, what you're presenting at it. So, yeah, this novel sounds epic. Why are you getting into that?
I'm really interested in the church as a fellowship, as a concept, and how the church interacts with the world. So my first graphic novel was about Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who, you know, was a theologian that joined a plot to assassinate Hitler. And my second long form graphic novel was about the Inklings, Tolkien and Lewis, and a very generative fellowship. And then this one is more about a destructive church community and what we can learn from the Puritans, who, I believe it or not, I sort of think they get a bad rap. I'm not going to apologize or tell people that they need to get on board with the Puritans, but I am really interested in the concept of fear and the demonology of the church and how it distorted a community. And I think there's still a lot of lessons we can take from it that don't include, you know, actually that religion is bad. You know, I think that's a wrong conclusion to take from Salem.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I just over the last couple of weeks I've watched two movies related sort of to this. One was what's it called? The Witch, I think it was. And
The Vavitch.
yeah, set right in that, I think set right in that same time period there.
It's
And then the other
great,
one
yeah.
was The Ritual, set kind of in Amsterdam wilds and stuff, or Denmark wilds, whatever. I thought that was amazing.
Oh.
So what pulls your in? Okay, so you, by the way, you mentioned Lewis and Tolkien. You know what I always thought would be hilarious and fun and awesome to have would be to have like a kids show or a graphic novel or something of the Inklings as boys, which would have been totally impossible. But as boys getting up to all kinds of adventures that would sort of foreshadow all the stuff they would imagine later.
Well, you know what? There's a book coming out that I just blurbed. I read it recently called The Inklings Detective Society, and it's
Oh,
a
that's
sort
amazing.
of fan fiction reimagining of the Inklings as their own sort of detective shop that like
Man,
solves
I'm
murder.
depressed now. That sounds fantastic. Well,
Right?
there goes
No,
my
it's one
idea.
of those ideas where you're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that?
How does this not exist? Okay. So how are you, what's your story with this? I have no idea how to construct a graphic novel. With this channel, a lot of what we do is try to write novels. So there's not a lot of art and artists. At least it's not like a major focus for our community. We're mostly all about write good and getting words on pages. And some of our members are artists. Some of them are really good. But we're not really here to help with a lot of art direction and stuff like that. It's about the words and characterization and plot structure and so on. So can you walk us through a little bit? How do you go about writing or structuring or creating a graphic novel? Do you do the art yourself, or do you partner with somebody else for that? Are you doing end-to-end the whole thing on your own?
Yeah, so in this case, you know, there's a lot of examples of graphic novels that are more like division of labor, where there's a writer and an artist, a letterer, colorist, all that. But in my work, I kind of do it all. So I'm kind of like an auteur filmmaker in a sense, where it really is a ton of things you have to design. Not only the screenplay, the basic concept, but the costumes, the set design, the coloring, everything. So it is a massive project. But it is one that I just cannot underscore this enough. It is a mess from T to B, top to bottom, a mess. I mean, yes, there is a system that I use, which is I write and then I write longhand in the first draft. I don't go by page. I don't do like panel one and then dialogue. I just write. Then I draw alongside the writing, and then I go back to writing. So it's meant to be very intuitive, and the word and the image talk to each other. That's the only way I can build stories, and that's not really something I recommend. It's just my brain does not work on story without image. Words are fundamentally abstract to me, and so I need nouns, I need imagery to help build stories.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. So why your interest in, as you mentioned, demonology and fear and how communities respond to that badly or well? Like, yeah, why is that something that interests you apart from Nazgul on your top shelf? Which is okay.
Well, okay, I don't want this to be a sermon or a theological diatribe, but here's what I will say. I think most people, if you drop them into Salem in 1692, would have behaved exactly the same way as everyone else there, right? There was a kind of mass psychogenic illness that affected this community that on some level, I think we have to have a little lowercase e empathy for. Like we have to understand the human condition, and what happened to these people was it was absolutely evil what happened. And I mean, if you're getting into the theology, I think there was demonic activity there, but not in the sense of like The Exorcist and possession. I think I read some amazing books by Rene Girard about the nature of Satan, and Satan as not being like a literal guy with devil's horns, but like the spirit of accusation
Mhm.
itself is a form of demonic presence on earth,
Mhm.
right? The sort of antichrist. And I do think that was there. And so it's a very complicated story. And I want to unpack in many ways. I don't know what I think until I write these books. So I have just begun this process and I'm still trying to construct the argument that I'm making in the story. But
Mhm.
the goal of it is to drop a young reader. I mean, these are meant for 12-year-olds into Salem and not explain what was going on, but just let them experience it. Like,
Mhm.
don't put any explanation or judgment around it. Just say, this is going to be like a first person shooter sort of experience where you're playing a video game where you are in the character that is experiencing these mysterious and scary and strange happenings and trying to say, what is the right response? What would you have done? And we'll see where that goes. And like all graphic novels, they change 100 times over. So come to me in 2028 when this comes out and I'll tell you more.
2028. Okay, so it takes a while, I would imagine, with all of the art
Oh
and
man.
everything.
I mean, Mythmakers was a 5-year project. I went to Oxford in 2019 for my research work, and it
Mhm.
came out in 2024. So it just these things, this is 224 pages, and I'm writing everything. It's like a game of Tetris. Like I move one thing and the whole thing like reflows and changes, and so it's very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Chat says 12-year-olds will ignore explanations anyway, so it's a great strategy.
It's
Yeah.
no, this is the ultimate communication device for young minds in my mind. Like it's the way I wanted to learn things was I need
Mhm.
images, I needed stories.
Mhm.
And man, you put a comic in front of a kid, they're never going to read Tolkien's tremendous essay on fairy stories. They're just not. But
No.
if I can trick them into reading it by taking a lion, a wizard, and putting them on a dragon ride where they explore like why do stories work? Why does fantasy, in Tolkien's words, the highest form of human art, right? Like
Mhm.
why is that? I just think anybody who likes the Avengers or Spider-Man or anything
Mhm.
should like understand some of these ideas. So yes, I'm tricking them through pictures.
That's awesome. Tell us about this Mythmakers um, project. It sounds absolutely epic.
Well, it's basically fan art. I mean, I would not be the creative person I am today without Tolkien and Lewis, and not just because of their faith, which was critical to my framework of the world and the value of imagination in God's universe. Like that's important. But also just like I came to these books as like stories. I was not interested in them in like some kind of theological worldview,
Right,
but
right.
like Narnia just to me is like the text of a kid's story. And I read them out of order because of HarperCollins, committing a sin against all of mankind by reordering them out of publication order. So I read them out of order
Yeah.
and did not really clock that they were theological. Like it seems insane actually to say that, but I
Mhm.
just wasn't a smart kid. I just thought they were amazing portal fantasies, and I carried The Hobbit around as a kid like it was a Bible. I just loved it. I loved the dragons.
Mhm.
And so I made this book as a sort of, you know, I wanted to pass on some of my love, not just of Narnia of Middle Earth, but of their friendship and their fellowship. And most people don't know how amazing their story is.
Yeah. What is it specific like as you're now an adult looking back on all of these formative influences and how the colors and sounds and the magic of it all inspired you? What would be some of your top takeaways about why they have influenced you in your own outlook?
Uh-huh. Well, okay, so Tolkien had this idea of subcreation. He felt that we mimic God, and God is a creator, and we create under his umbrella, right? And Lewis and Tolkien subcreated these other worlds. It was like the highest form of human art to Tolkien, as I said. They subcreated Narnia and Middle Earth, and these places like live in our imaginations as places we want to visit, right? Well, they also subcreated a third thing, which had never really been illustrated in my mind, which was their own friendship is a kind of fantasy world that many people want to live in. I mean, I look at the Eagle and Child and think about, a pub on a snowy day with your friends, and like it is a kind of fantasy world, the literary life
Yeah.
shared with friends, and I want to step into that too. And so Myth Makers was a way to write a myth about the myth of their own friendship. And again, myth doesn't mean lie. It just means a story that stands in for a bigger truth that you can't tell any other way, right?
Right.
And
Good.
the longing for that friendship and for that thing that we all want in our fellowships, I just wanted to make a book about that. So yeah, I think there is a kind of like longing to enter into stories, and I think that's actually a real holy desire. It's as Lewis said, it's Zenzucht. It's the longing for longing. It's the scent of a flower that you've never smelled before, and yet you know that by heart. And that's part of what all stories do, I think.
I agree. What a great way to put it. What's some of your own story, John? How did you get to where you are now? What's your origin myth?
Well, it's all drawing. I was not a literary person. It would shock the 12-year-old me to know that I am an author, like that I wrote things. Um, Inkception, thank you. I will steal that. That's
Go, Victor.
super good. Yeah, I drew as long as I can remember. I remember tracing Garfield out of the Sunday Funny papers when I was 6 years old, and the love of drawing took me places, really, is the way to say it. I just wanted to make visual things. Eventually that led to the world of illustration. I didn't know I was an illustrator until I got to college and found classes that were like, oh, my whole life, even though I was making comics as a kid just for fun, and I love Spider-Man, I read Jim Lee, and I was an illustrator. I was wanting to put words and images together in concert.
Mhm.
And that's how I ended up where I am today, was just kind of following what those two things did and the magic of it, because word and images, you put them together, they're not individual components. You get a third thing that is neither word nor image. And that is the art school word is gestalt, right? It is the whole is more than the sum of the parts. And that happens anytime you read a book with words and images. And the magic of that, I've been chasing that high since I read The Hobbit as a 10-year-old.
Amazing. Yeah, it makes me think about like when people get together and sing, something happens. There's like you sync up, and something bigger all of a sudden is there, and it's life-giving. It can be, and healing. I think specifically maybe for men.
I totally, when you go to a stadium and you watch a ball game and something happens and you high five a stranger, the enjoyment of high fiving a stranger has like an otherworldly sort of joy to it. And the only way I can describe it is like we were made, and again, I'm going to get in my pulpit, but we were made to worship, basically. And when we all come together in this collective joy, there is a kind of like, oh, I think this is what we were made for. And in some ways, it's, I think, why sports exist. But yeah.
Agreed. Well, also, I mean, sports it's a form of storytelling, right? But it's great because it's live, nerfed warfare. But anyhow, that's why fandoms, I think, are meant to be so awesome, because you can instantly look at somebody else at the same Comic-Con or the same convention, and you're at the same booth around the same story, and this person's soul from the inside out because it's you too.
No, this is the Lewis and Tolkien origin myth. They met each other at a faculty meeting in 1926. And basically, it was like seeing somebody at a con and they're wearing the shirt of your favorite character. Like they got the Wolverine t-shirt on and you're like, okay, we're going to be pals. They talked about Norse myths. And at that time, that was not a cool thing. That was like, that's kid stuff. And the fact that two adult men were like geeking out over Norse mythology, and that Lewis joined Tolkien's weird club where they read Norse myths in Icelandic, that was like, oh, we're the same, like you and I. And that's what started their friendship, was basically fandom.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Let's talk about this event that you're speaking at. So Faith That Builds Worlds, hosted by the Jesuits. what is it you're presenting at this event, and why does that topic, faith that builds worlds, matter to you?
Well, so I'm going to be talking about my graphic novel and Lewis and Tolkien specifically, and some of this idea of why, the first thing we learned about God in the Bible in Genesis, the fifth word, it's like right there in the beginning, God created, right? He's a maker. And
Mhm.
so Tolkien and Lewis sort of are really good examples of this sort of worldview lived out in the magic of imagination, like the validating of imagination as a godly value, because only God creates ex nihilo from nothing, right? From
Mhm.
nothing, something. That's God's ability that man cannot do,
Mhm.
except for this one place, which is in our imaginations. So we image God most clearly when we create. And so that's why this world building as an activity is not just mere escapism or entertainment. It is this kind of like holy act. And it's a really interesting idea when you think about, why? Why would that be a feature that would be so honored in not just like the human imagination, but in our culture? Like, we all love this, right?
Mhm.
And it has a fairly recent phenomenon. I mean, even as far as 100 years ago, fantasy writing as a genre for adults is not a thing, right?
Right.
I
Right.
mean, the novel is not a thing if you go back 250 years, right?
Mhm.
So like Dickens is writing stuff that would basically be considered like pulp comics of his era,
Right.
right? So
Right.
the people who were trained, like Tolkien and Lewis, when they were trained, they would never have read novels. They would have read verse. They would have read verse only. And then,
Mhm.
like, if you want to read Robinson Crusoe, great, but like, that's on your own time, bro. So, the idea that suddenly stories and fantasy stories occupy this in our culture a pretty hallowed place, with especially the recent phenomenon of Game of Thrones and George R. R. Martin becoming America's Tolkien. Like, it's a very stark world from even 100 years ago, and that's
Yeah.
that's really interesting.
That's actually genuinely fascinating. I'd not slowed down to consider how recent a phenomenon the novel is, and for it to have been catapulted to such heights, and then to now be at a place right now where it's struggling, it's sort of devalued, and it's becoming more valuable, and we don't know what to do with it. I'm curious in that last couple of minutes, what's your hope for the future when it comes to creativity, all the spaces that you're in? Tech is evolving constantly. Human attention and imagination is fragmented beyond belief, or it's just desaturated out of any ability to, it would seem, to be able to use it. But then we're seeing these curious rebels, scum, fighting back from, all sorts of corners of the internet, and people doing things offline and in person, and reclaiming artistic abilities and talent, and then co-opting tech and doing it in new ways and different ways and so on. As you're looking at the landscape of like everything, what's your hope for the next, 20, 30 years, and you're looking at the human condition, you're looking at what creativity is and all?
Yeah, it's funny. I found a quote from Brush and Pencil magazine in 1918, and it was something like the way that they have designed it, the artist will soon be unnecessary.
Yeah.
And of course, what they were talking about was the camera, right? The
Right.
fear in artists were the camera was now going to displace any need for artistic representation. And so, if I'm mapping that onto AI, the camera absolutely changed what kinds of art humanity made.
Hmm.
But it's ridiculous to think that the technology somehow replaces the artist itself. So
Hmm.
I am I think AI as the future is going to be an amazing tool. I think it's going to be kind of a trend as well. I think there are
Hmm.
things that we will look back and be horrified at the sort of weird cringiness of it. And
Agreed.
I think it will also be a tragedy. I think it will displace certain artist groups, inside of advertising agencies. Maybe some of the production, art pipeline, and animation could be displaced. But the like core notion of like human beings love not just result, but process, right? And
Agreed.
the more you make that the focus of your time on earth, like I'm not just doing this to get a result. I am not making art to get some sort of useful tool out of it. I am making it to be present in the making and then
Mhm.
sharing that with a group of people in the world. Like that is what art is. We make it and we share it. And I just think, no matter what kind of technology is out there, I think you're going to advocate for artists. You're going to have to advocate for rights of artists, and people will have to stand up and say, we need to pay people. We need to protect people's rights. But I'm not really worried about the extinction of all artists because, frankly, most of the slop I see out there is just, it's not very compelling.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. So, got a question here in the chat from Victor. He says, "Where and when is this convention?" So he's in Louisiana. Is it's not an online conference, is it? It's happening in person somewhere.
Yes, yes. It'll be in Chicago. Let's see, at on the Loyola campus. I'm pulling on my calendar so I get the dates. March 13th, 14th, 15th. So
Excellent.
yes, that would be the time it's there.
All right. What I'll do is, well, I'll clip out this conversation from the live stream, and I'll put the link to your website in the description, and also for the conference, so that people can check it out. Where can folk find you online, John?
They can find me on Instagram at John Hendrix. That's with an X, like Jimmy. I'm not related. Or johnhendrix.com.
Excellent. Goodness, at the risk of like starting a whole new conversation, what's apart from Mythmakers, what's been one of your favorite projects that you've worked on?
Oh man. Okay, so a few years ago, I started drawing comics in my sketchbook about the Holy Ghost and what he does with his time off. And they always made me laugh. Every time I sat down in church, I would start a comic and just enjoyed the narrative riffing. It's basically Calvin and Hobbes fan art, but I collected a book of those that came out a few years ago called The Holy Ghost. And I'm really proud of it because it's just a collection of my first love, which is basically like Sunday Funny Paper comics. And they explore a ghost and a squirrel and a badger sort of talking theology. And yeah, I basically, if you want a tour of all the things I was reading over those years, they sort of trickle down into dumb form. Like, let's take Alistair McIntyre and then let's turn his whole thesis into a dumb comic. That's basically what I'm doing with that book.
It sounds awesome. I'm looking at it on your website. I hope people go check it out. It sounds hilarious. And then let's go the other side. Why did you pick the Nazgul for a Halloween costume?
Oh, well, so for every other year.
Why
so,
not?
I mean, I love Halloween. I love making costumes. I like making stuff, and it's one thing I don't get to do as much anymore. Just building. I built a Tower of Barad-dûr, Sauron's tower, a few years ago that I wore as a helmet. And that was so exciting that then after that, it was like, what's the next thing I can build? So, of course, the Witch King of Angmar's helmet had to be next.
No kidding. And it looks like it's real metal too. Are you a metal crafter, smith?
No,
person?
no. It's, listen, you can do wonders with spray paint and chipboard.
Okay. Amazing. Oh, wow. Favorite comic?
Oh man. I mean, the one that I read as a kid where I was like, every week I went and stood in line and got the issue was when Spawn came out. I was a huge Todd McFarlane fan. And I have Spawn 1 through 50 bagged in my basement that I imagine sending my child to college with. I'm sure they're worth $2 each. But before that, the original Eastman and Laird Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is so good. And I always tell people to go read those early black and white zines because they're great. The gritty world of TMNT like Cowabunga Dude stuff is just an incredible universe, and it's worth revisiting if you haven't read it.
Amazing. Oh, that's so fun. Last question for you. What words of encouragement might you have for our community, for our channel? So we're indie fiction authors. Our community it's run by Catholics. We're mostly Catholic. And so we grok this sense of like storytelling can be a vocation, but we have broader people who follow us on the YouTube channel. What words of advice might you have for people who are interested in writing and being creative, for someone who creates as incredibly as you do in all sorts of different mediums, what's advice that comes top of mind for us?
Okay, number one is making art or anything writing. It's just really hard. Okay, it good art, good writing, good music does not want to exist. Okay, so you have to fight for it to be in the world. And I don't know if that's a result of the fall. That's a whole nother conversation. Was Adam able to paint an amazing painting pre Apple? I don't know, but here's what I know: you can't drop a guitar down the stairs and have it play like Hotel California. Like, you have to work at it, and that always involves pain, right? Everything that we value in our lives that is worth something to us is costly, and it will cost you something to make good art. So you just cannot expect that the moment you run into friction with your work, that that's a sign from the universe or a sign from the work itself that it's bad. Even though it feels like it's telling you that this is bad, you're actually just encountering what every artist has ever encountered. And every book you've read, when you read that line in the book, you have to remember that the author, when they were writing that, did not know if the book was good or not, right? So just remember that the process of making this stuff is so difficult that you really have to have patience and perseverance, and you have to embrace that struggle is part of what it is to make art. And if you can remember that, then when you're in the pit of despair, you just know, like, oh yeah, I'm here again, right? This is what is required for me to make good art.
I think that is an awesome place to wrap, John.
Okay, good luck.
Thanks so much for coming on. It was great to spend some time with you.
All right, thanks.
God bless you.
Bye.
All right, friends, we're going to wrap up our live stream for the rest of the day today. And I think John is going to be popping off in a second. Let me see if I can get me to be there. There we go. Come on, full screen. All right. And man, we had a fun conversation today. We covered a bunch. We talked about imposter syndrome. We chatted with Rose about self-publishing indie fiction, and then John writing about art, illustration, graphic novels. So lots of good stuff. If you've got questions coming out of today and you're catching this replay, please say hi in the comments. You got additional questions, let me know. And I would love to bring them up, chat about them. If you haven't yet seen it, it's probably right below this video. We do have very cool merch items in our store. So have a look at that. I wonder if I can actually screen share and I can show you, because some of it looks really cool. Let me go to here. We've also got an upcoming online convention. So I know I've mentioned this, but you are one of the first people to hear about this. So I'll also show you a sneak peek of that, like I did, I think, last week, but I've got the website kind of done and I'm about ready to start sharing the news. So let me show you. We do have merch. So you can grab a mug either for, let's say, the Legend Haven Con is coming up, or let's see, for example, we've got a Legend Fiction Essential Collection, or if you like to write, writing begins, or the fact that you start stories. Look at that. I think those just look amazing. Or you can grab a cool little laptop case, nice little journal, inspire yourself to keep writing. So, and it's a way to support the channel, and it's a way for you to like epic up your life. And if you have not yet, come and check out, I'll just show you again, come and check out legendfiction.com. If you're a author and you have been kind of struggling by yourself, that's kind of what our community is all about. I built it, I host it, I hang out in it. It's inspired me to write because we're hanging out together and we're writing together. So you can start a 30-day free trial and you can poke around. We've got active, ongoing storytelling projects so that you can get right in and start writing. We do host our weekly live stream as a way to stay in touch and keep chatting with you. So bring your questions, and you can see all of the feedback from people who just love their time here. We also have, as I said, I was going to show you Legend Haven. Website's been up and down. Good, it's still up. So May 2nd through 3rd, 2026. So in a couple of months from now, the friendliest fiction con in the galaxy is back, hosted by yours truly, and a lot of it is going to be live right on this channel. So we're about to start inviting people, and it's going to be an absolute blast, kind of the way it was last year too. So if you actually head over to it, legendhaven.com, and you go to the page, share this tab, you can actually register totally for free. And if you do, I will instantly send you a short story that I wrote for you called The Sign of the Visioneer. And it's presented in a cool little ebook. You can download it and enjoy it. And it's an exploration of the world of Legend Haven called Bannermark, which is the theme for this next con. So check that out. Come in and come and join us in the Legend Fiction community. It's not only the coolest community for storytellers in the world, it's probably got the coolest storytellers in the world who are in love with the best stories in the world. We've got tournaments, we have writing challenges, we have, what do you call them? Story collections that you can join and write. Constantly busy. We have mentors in there. We have knights who keep everything fun and engaging. So we're building what we think is the best kind of writing environment for people to write. And then when you're ready for the next level, we have a indie fiction author marketing mastermind, which is something that I host every month. We get together and we share what is working with marketing and what is not working. What are tools that people are testing, and what are collabs that people can get up to. And then if you're somebody who just doesn't know where to start with writing, we've actually even got our own creative writing school, which we have built. And Gabby, who's frequently on this live stream, and myself, we've recorded each one of these lessons. I mean, they're super helpful to me too, but this is the best stuff that we can think of after decades of messing around with writing and teaching ourselves to write and going through courses and graduating from them, putting it together to try to create the best writing program to help you finish a novel within 1 year. It's kind of the guarantee that Gabby coaches you through. And you get the personal live coaching from somebody who actually loves writing and wants to hang out with you and your novel. So if all of this is interesting, or if you just want to keep hanging around for a while and sort of following us on the channel, say hi in the comments. Let me know if there was something super helpful or interesting from this episode, this conversation, especially as it comes to imposter syndrome. I'm sure I didn't cover everything. There's a lot more to cover. Say hi in the comments. Cannot wait to hear from you. Alrighty, we'll see you next week. Have an awesome week. Keep writing. May the lore be with you.